Is there any easy way to define hypocrites? Well, hypocrite is the person who claims that he is a Muslim, even though uh, he himself knows that he's not a Muslim, he doesn't believe. And there is no way that you can now declare a person as a hypocrite because you don't know. That's what I that's what understanding this law would enable you to appreciate. You see, there was a time when the messenger himself was present. Apart from many other significant aspects of his presence, one, probably the most important aspect, was that while he was present, there was a direct communication between him and the Almighty through divine revelation. Uh, and that's the only source that can tell us what's there in the hearts of people. Now, we can look at the behavior of people. There could be individuals who say that we are Muslims, but they don't behave like Muslims. We'll invite them. We'll try to convince them. We'll give them arguments. We'll pray to the Almighty for them. But we have no business whatsoever to declare anyone as a kafir or anyone as a hypocrite. It's none of our business. Our job is to present and to invite and to pray. And that is what we must keep doing. And that's where we must try to improve our performance, improve our understanding and the way of presentation. What are the different understandings about the second coming of Christ and Mehdi? Or is there a second? Okay. Uh, in my humble understanding, the second coming, well, the coming of Mehdi is not mentioned. Uh, there's no mention of it in the Quran. It's from Hadith. And the understanding from Hadith is I've not done my research, but those who have done research on it, and I rely on their research, what emerges is there are two types of Hadith on this subject. One, those that are not reliable, and the others that are reliable. Those that are reliable, they are talking about a ruler who was to come in the later times, who would be of exceptional character, matching the piety of the first four caliphs. And he has already come and gone in the person of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. These coming of Jesus Christ, if you look at the Quran, it seems that the Quran doesn't mention it and doesn't allow the possibility of it happening. But the fact of the matter is that this coming has been mentioned in Hadith in a way that the Hadith seem to be reliable and authentic. So how to reconcile the two? The Quran is very clear that he's not coming. Obviously, it's a long debate, but I can talk about it at some other occasion. But the way it seems to get reconciled in my mind is through the understanding that it's going to be Jesus's followers who mention his name as their prophet, that is the Christians. They are going to reform their religion and bring it to follow the real teachings of Jesus Christ, which is not the case right now. So it seems that before the day of judgment, the religion of Jesus Christ is going to come close to the real true spirit and letter of it through reformation that's going to happen amongst the Christians, at least some of them. Deen is only one, so why there were previous books? The Almighty, as I said earlier, decided that God's religion, which was delivered by individual messengers, prophets earlier on, was later decided to be delivered through the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam had two different branches, children of Israel and children of Ishmael. God's religion first got revealed to the prophets of children of Israel, uh, and it took something like 2,000 years. Uh, there were a number of books. Three of them are more prominent: uh, Torah, Zabur, Psalms, and Injil Gospels. They were actually basically one book, uh, but with three different versions, three different aspects. Torah was primarily the law. Zabur, Psalms were the praise of the Almighty, hymns, um, beautifully expressed. And Gospels were the mention of the wisdom in the God's law as described by Jesus Christ through the Gospels. Uh, why are they different? Well, they're not different. They actually were talking about the same religion. However, the times were different. Therefore, the examples were different. And because of the different setting, there were some areas where the law to begin with was different. And then it evolved and became what it was finally done in the Quran. Um, there was this, for instance, earlier on in the economy of humans, significance of livestock, not quite as much now as it used to be then. And because they would live mostly as tribes, and they were a group of people who were living as progeny of prophets, so they were given a few laws which were different. Basically, the religion was the same, beliefs were exactly the same, moral principles were exactly the same, and this happens to be the major part of God's deen. There were some minor differences in the law, and quite apart from other things which I've already mentioned, one reason probably also was that the Almighty wanted to test people, that if they are to be required to switch from one Sharia to another, well, the details uh, of which are going to be the same, except for some minor differences, are they going to be able to overcome the barrier of bias, prejudice, or not? Uh, does the current version of Torah mention coming of a prophet? Uh, yes, I mean, there are other mentions also, but in the present Torah, the first five books are considered to be Torah by the Jews, uh, and those first five books, amongst them is a book called Deuteronomy, the last book, the book of Deuteronomy. In that book, and according to some experts, this book of Deuteronomy is actually the present version of Torah. The rest of the four books are history. And in this book, in chapter 18, from verse 17 to 19, it is said that the Almighty informed Musa alayhi salam that I will raise from amongst your brothers a prophet like you, I will put my words in his mouth. He will tell them everything that I'll ask him to deliver. And whoever is going to oppose him or reject him, the prophet who will speak in my name, I will take him to task. If this prophecy, which is still present, is analyzed, it mentions 5 features of a prophet to come later. And all these 5 features put together fit into the description of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than anybody else. Obviously, it's a detailed topic, but the fact is that this prophecy, which still has found a way in Torah, is one of the many other prophecies. But this stands out for me to be probably one of the most prominent ones. How much time lapse is from Adam to Ibrahim, and what was the guidance for the people who existed in that period? Can be just a guess, something like 4,000 to 6,000 years. Uh, we know about them only through the Quran. We know some of the prominent names. Nuh alayhi salam was one prominent messenger. Hud and Saleh alayhi salam were the other two. Other than them, uh, there are a few other names also mentioned, but we do not have any authentic source informing us about the details, except for the fact that the Almighty tells us that they were people who, well, there was a prophet in every nation. وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ رَسُولٍ وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ هَادٍ. So at the beginning of the journey of human race, civilization, there were prophets sent to each nation who were living, uh, separate from each other.
When God created, when he told the angels that he's going to create a Khalifa, why did the angels assume that he would create fasad on the earth? Because having freedom doesn't mean that you just create fasad. They could have said, yes, this is a great scheme, and this human is going to, in spite of all trials and tribulations, going to succeed in life. Why did they assume that it will lead to fasad?
Now, coming to your question, you see, imagine the angels, the way the Quran describes them. They are close to the Almighty. They're always praising Him, um, appreciating what He has done, uh, talking about His greatness, etc. They are always uh, there in a way that they can see God, or at least they know they can feel His presence. I don't know about the details, but they're there in His presence. They were informed. And obviously, when the Almighty says, Inni Jailun fil ardi Khalifa, it's the style of description of the Quran that the Quran does not mention all the details. It gives you, a nutshell, what the story, the narrative is about. So the description of Khalifa that the angels understood gave them an understanding, a feeling that this creature is not going to be like us, close to the Almighty, with them looking at Him and knowing that He's there physically present. They'll be the ones who will be given an assignment to be in the world of ghaib, unseen. And there are going to be so many things with them, their desires, their ego, etc., and the freedom they'll get, they'll misuse it. So that's what what led them to conclude. And as I said, I probably, and this is my hunch, they probably also had the example of uh, jinns in their mind who were already there, and they're not. Many of them were not performing too well, so they had this notion, this thought in mind that you know why another being. So that's the kind of reason probably that comes to one's mind. Life's trial is fair, as you mentioned, no doubt, but a question that bothers me is why are we put in this trial to begin with? The answer to this question that the Almighty has provided us in the Quran is that He actually asked you, and you showed your willingness to come. Uh, that interaction, its memory has been erased, but it's there within you. How? Uh, you show it in your daily life that you sacrifice, you strive, you struggle for your future, good future, your own future, the future of your family, your kids. So all humans are yearning for the paradise, a life full of beauty, satisfaction, contentment, excitement, progress. It's there in all humans. So you know we make sacrifices. We send our children to school, to colleges, to universities. We also ourselves went through the same process, knowing full well that we could fail. But that's not what deters us from going through the process. So God tells us that He asked us before sending us to this world whether you are prepared to take the challenge. He presented this challenge to the heavens and the earth, to the mountains, everybody, everything. They all refused. فَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانُ. But humans, they took up the challenge of freedom, challenge of choice making, the challenge that this life is going to be a life of trial. You can fail in this life, but you took this challenge that I want that beautiful world of paradise where I will live for the eternity. I don't want to die. I want to live forever. And that is what has caused humans to do so many things that when they're doing it, they're making sacrifices, they don't get any immediate benefit. They do it for the future. So God tells us that there is only one genuine, true future. That is the future of the next life that is going to stay forever. All other concepts of future are deception.
I just read a verse from the Quran. It's basically 35:18. Uh, and the verse says, whoever purifies themselves, they only do so for their own good.
Right.
And to Allah is the final return. In the context of this verse, and what you just told us from the top of your lecture as well, can we not infer that we are no ones to judge whether somebody is a Muslim or is not a Muslim, or if it was a Muslim and now became a non-Muslim, and take revenge against them, versus in the light of this verse, it's Allah who will determine and judge, and we should leave the judgment to Allah versus us taking the decision.
Absolutely. Actually, this verse that you've mentioned does not only, clarify the point that you are making, and I completely agree with you. Who are we to judge anybody else? Honestly, I mean, I want to tell my Muslim brothers and sisters that whenever you judge somebody else, you are being arrogant. God is not going to spare the people who are arrogant. For God's sake, have mercy on yourself. I mean, how can I judge anyone? All that I can do is to tell others and, help others understand that, what you're saying is not correct. This is my understanding. These are my arguments. To claim that somebody has actually gone wrong and deliberately, knowingly, wow, this is only the Almighty who can do it. Not even the Prophet ﷺ used to do it. So that's one point. But I want to just bring home another important part of the understanding of the Quran through what you've mentioned. You know, purification is what this verse mentions. That is the ultimate goal of the Almighty's religion. This purification you are expected to have how much? As best as it's possible for you, given your circumstances, given your limitations. So, who am I to judge? And this purification has two aspects. One is intellectual, and the other is moral. That is why the Quran keeps saying, Allazina amanu wa amilus salihat. If you are intellectually honest and the message is presented to you properly, you will believe. If not, then you will accept whatever is true. And likewise, you are to be morally upright. So, people who indeed become non-believers at the time of the prophets are not pure. That's another thing that I would like to mention in response to your question. That generally speaking, the principle is that all nations, all societies, all religions, all sects have both good people and bad people. That's the law of averages, which is, again, an inviolable law. Except, you know what? Except in the case of the messengers. Because of this law that we are talking about, because of the application of this law, towards the end part of the prophetic mission of the prophets, the messengers, all good people come close to the prophet. I'm not saying all people who come close to him are good. Some are hypocrites. They are then shunted out. And all evil people, they distance themselves from the prophet and his company. This is an exception. The great, big, horrible, in my humble opinion, I'll be very strong, I mean it, blunder that many Muslims have committed is that they have unjustifiably generalized what was true in the case of the times of the messengers. That is one big mistake that the Muslims have committed. And as a result of it, you know what has happened? What has happened is what a famous philosopher said, probably it was Bertrand Russell, said, as I mentioned earlier, all societies have good people and bad people. Good people do good things, bad people do bad things. Wow. And he goes on to say, it goes to the credit of religion and religion alone that it sometimes causes good people to do bad things. Unfortunately, he's right, because it's misunderstood. So imagine good Muslims hating non-Muslims. Why? Because they're non-Muslim. And this is because of not understanding the Quran properly. And this is because of not understanding this law properly. What a good advertisement of this law. Maybe I've not been able to explain it properly, but honest to God, I mean, understanding it or not understanding it makes or breaks.